A nice, bright and early episode, particularly for us fellow Queenslanders this morning. Got up nice and early, did some morning routine stuff, and now getting on, online to chat with each and every one of you. And as you can tell, we're kind of mixing up the times just to see what works a little bit better, but to also capture those different people because as the title suggests today, we are undertaking enormous periods of change. We've entered a new year, and Happy New Year if you're just watching this as your first episode for the new year. But if you're joining us again, welcome back. And if you are watching live, give us those likes, give us those hearts, because that's what it's all about. And also do the same if you are watching a replay. But as the title suggests, we are undergoing enormous periods of change. We've entered into a new year and we thought, okay, cool, things are going to start to ease off. But if anything, change has accelerated. What was once days or weeks and we could plan for change is now becoming change within a mere matter of hours. Even for sometimes, we're seeing now media releasing or documenting, or our politicians advising of changes, and then very quickly making additional changes or backflipping on changes. And one big media story right now, we're not going to dive into it, is obviously the Novak Djokovic saga that is, I guess, plaguing Victoria. And I guess a lot of the Australian public are really querying, well, what's happening? Where are you changing these milestones, or these, not milestones, but I guess these points which have been, so widely promoted? How are you changing it, and why are you changing it? And are there exemptions? Aren't there exemptions? What does this mean for the rest of us? And it becomes extremely confusing. And what we're seeing as well is, still to this point, and I touched on this earlier in the week, well, my first episode of 2022 was, talking about, is this the year of the rat? And still I'm seeing pharmacists and healthcare professionals and healthpreneurs being inundated with calls about trying to source these testing kits. And I totally understand. I totally understand the hesitancy, the uncertainty, the fear, the anxiousness, and the anxiety that is driven through unknowing and through the lack of knowledge, through the desire to try to test yourself, to do what is right. And as a result of that, you're trying to go out there and get these tests done, and you just can't find them. You just can't find them. And so you are exhausting yourself. You're probably not feeling too crash hot, and you are phoning around trying to source these things. And, a couple of days ago, we spoke about findarat.com.au to try to unleash this uncertainty. But what we've seen is that despite all of this change, despite all of this, I guess, chaos that's happening right now, the frustrations are still coming about from both the healthpreneurial end, and both from well, I guess we're all healthpreneurs, as I've said before, but from the business end. So from like pharmacies, or, I guess retail outlets, or whatever it might be that you're trying to source these from, and also from the patient end. And these frustrations are blending into obviously increased chaos and anxiety, because the pharmacy or the healthcare provider or the retailer is trying to meet this demand, but then also trying to siphon through all of the information that we're receiving from government and the changing, I guess, safety initiatives that they're bringing out, or relaxations of these, and or changes to these. And then you've got the patient end, which is trying to get some level of certainty, find these tests. And as a result of that, we're hitting this, I guess, clash of misinformation and, I guess, lack of information. And as a result of that, it's leading to this very chaotic environment that we're in. And what I really wanted to do today is, in any period of change, or when we go to adapt to change, how are we actually responding to it? And not in the sense of solutions, but what questions are we asking ourselves? Because we know questions are the answers. And so if the bottlenecks arise, and if we're getting, some stores are reporting literally a call every 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds, they're receiving a phone call. And that is insane. That is because That's probably consuming the efforts of 2 to 3 uh, staffing resources or talent resources just to fill those calls. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, is what are you doing? Well, what questions are you doing? If that's your problem, okay, my problem is I'm fielding all these calls. I'm fielding all these calls and I can't do it. So my problem is we're getting a call every 30 seconds. Well, why? Why are we getting a call every 30 seconds? It's because people are uncertain about that. And more about the rapid antigen test. Well, then why? Well, because there's all this misinformation about. Well, why? Because I myself aren't providing information. Well, why? Because I need to be answering these calls to provide this information. Why? Because they need to get this. Why? Because they're getting this information via telephone. And so, as you can see, if we keep asking why, we can start to establish, this root cause. And if why they want this information by telephone, well, why is that? Well, because I'm not providing it by any other means. Well, why? Because I don't have a social page, or I don't have a following, or I don't have an automated message. And as you can see, you can start to drill down to the root cause, or the root, I guess, area of opportunity to address these head on. And this is following Toyota's principle. So when we ask 5 whys, Toyota was one of the, I guess, implemented this within Toyota. And they were able to diagnose and mitigate risks to things not working properly based on finding out the root cause simply by asking 5 whys. And that's what I really want you to do now is when you're adapting to change, it's really important that we identify the bottlenecks and identify what isn't working and then ask the 5 whys. Get to that root cause. Get to that root cause. It allows us to do an evidence-based analysis of what is happening and what isn't happening, but also involve your team. Involve your team in the process and ask them to identify what is happening as well. And then as a result of getting to that root cause, you can address that root cause and hopefully create systems or processes or workflows that streamline or create things streamline things or create efficiencies that help to save you time. Because what we need to do, we're all given the same amount of time in a day, but it's how we utilize it effectively and efficiently that matters. And right now, when we're undergoing enormous periods of change, our time is our most precious resource. And so, how are you using it? How are you using it? We're all given the same number of hours in a day, the same number of minutes, the same number of seconds. And so my question to you today is, how are you using it? And so food for thought. And if you need to do this time analysis, or if you need to identify the bottlenecks, identify that bottleneck as your starting point. Ask your 5 whys, get to the root cause as to what is happening, and then address it. And stay off the solution. Keep asking questions. Because questions are your answers. And the better the question, the better the answer. The better the question, the better the answer. And so that's what I wanted to leave you with today, because at the end of the day, it's so important that we all have the opportunity to adapt to this change. Because, and I love this quote from Charles Darwin here. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one most adaptable to change. And so if you need to be adaptable to change, you need to leverage your time to utilize it as efficiently and as effectively as possible. Identify the bottlenecks, identify the root cause through the 5 whys, and create solutions based on that. Because your first solution or your quickest response to something isn't often the best. And right now, what we're seeing is the quickest solution is to field these phone calls, is to answer these phone calls, is to even call around. Keep calling. Rather than utilizing even your own networks to identify areas. And so as a patient, think about this as well. Think about this. Get to your 5 whys and identify how you can maybe do this a little bit better. But if it's information that you need, well, then as a healthpreneur, you need to be providing that information to the patient in a way in which they can consume it without picking up the phone. And so that's where I'll leave you today. How are you using your time? How are you identifying those bottlenecks and then getting to the root cause? Questions are your answers. So that's it from me today. And if you do have any comments on this as well, and feedback as well, I'd love to, for you to drop a comment in the comment section below. But as you can see in the description box as well, special shout out to those joining us from the Limitless Network, because the Limitless Network is a group of like-minded people who value health. And so, yeah, definitely jump on it, because at the end of the day, we're all healthpreneurs in our own right. We all value health in some way, shape, or form. And so that's it from me today. Have an absolutely incredible day. Stay safe, stay well. I know there's a lot of chaos happening, but remember, look after you. Put your own oxygen mask on first, because without your own well-being, how can you expect to ensure the well-being of others? So stay safe, stay well. Thanks for joining, and I look forward to catching up with you. Speaking of which, tomorrow is Friday, so we are catching up exclusively in the Limitless Network tomorrow. So catch you then. Details are in the description box below to join. Bye for now.